In Delta State, the race for who will succeed Governor Ifeanyi Okowa is heating up the polity. Among the contenders are the Deputy Senate President Ovie Omoagege of the All Progressives Congress, the Speaker Delta State House of Assembly Sheriff Oborovori, and David Edeve, a former Chief of Staff to Governor Okowa. But is there an anointed aspirant, and how are the political intrigues affecting governance? In the opposition All Progressives Congress in the state, there are claims that the state is being misgoverned. And for more on this, I'm being joined by Charles Aniagwu, the Delta State Commissioner for Information. He joins me from Delta State. Thank you so much, Mr. Aniagwu, for joining us on the Rise interview.
Thank you very much, Adesoa. Good afternoon, viewer.
Good afternoon. Well, the government, as you heard me say, has been accused of delivering substandard infrastructure and performing below expectations. This was an allegation by the campaign organization of the Ovie Omoagege, the Deputy Senate President, yesterday. In fact, let me play you a clip of what was said, and then I'll get you to react to it. If I can get the producer to play that.
Have you been to Delta?
Unfortunately not.
You should come to Delta. You'll be stunned. You'll be shocked. Delta is a state where poverty walks on four legs in the streets. Delta is a state where even us, who are the elite of the state, sometimes are even scared to travel home. Here in Abuja, I go around freely. If I'm going to Delta, I must go with 4 or 5 policemen. Because insecurity, robbery, organized criminality, everything that is wrong in Delta State. Delta State has no infrastructure to point out, very weak services. Delta State today is a tragedy.
Well, Mr. Aniagwu, I'm sure you heard all those allegations. How do you respond?
Well, at this way, my sister, if I were to be the Deputy Senate President, I will sack a man Iburu for not being intelligent enough in his submissions. First of all, you've seen stories about Delta, the number of roads, one of the most peaceful states in Nigeria today. Don't forget that when we came in 2015, Delta was occupying number 4 position in oil production. We were able to bring peace to bear, and today we are number 1 in the country. Even the report of the very recognized Bureau of Statistics, which is a federal institution, of course, you know, APC, the opposition party, heads the country. But in spite of that, the Bureau of Statistics was able to recognize Delta as the number 2 states in the country with lesser number of persons that are in the poverty range. Of course, yes, which means we have been able to lift our people out of poverty largely due to the programs that we have. It is campaign season. We don't begrudge politicians when they want to play their politics. We will stay on the line of governance. But I will want a man Iburu to be much more intelligent next time when he wants to make his submissions. When you come to Delta, we have in the last 7 years constructed over 850 roads spanning 1,650 kilometers. Of course, with a larger percentage of this road having line drains to help evacuate flood water to where they should be, either in the river or some borrow pit or other areas where they will not constitute any havoc to both the roads or to our people. And so for he to begin to talk about insecurity in a state where we travel around without having to move around with security personnel, you begin to wonder whether he indeed visits Delta. So we don't want to join issues with him, but I will invite you, indeed, he has invited you. I will ask you at this or any other person in Arise to come to Delta and enjoy. Today, our capital and indeed a number of urban centers is witnessing the influx of a number of persons, and that is because the state has become very, very peaceful. Not too long ago, you heard the governor of Anambra lamenting that most of the people in the southeast have moved into Delta. They couldn't have moved in if Delta is not peaceful. We introduce programs to empower our youth, which is why today our state is very peaceful, and oil production has gone up so high that we have occupied #1, like I mentioned earlier. And in a number of sectors, be it in education sector, the health sector, and of course, the renewal of our urban centers. All those are going simultaneously. So we will urge him to also come and visit the creeks, where we have been able to urbanize a number of our creeks, which hitherto were not places where you can easily visit on account of a poor state of infrastructure. So let him go and do some form of retrospection and some studying, and not the very poor showing he put up yesterday. That's enough to make, if I were the one, to sack him.
Okay, Mr. Aniagwu, well, you don't have the power to sack him. I put it to him that there has been commissioning of roads have been built in Delta State, but he mentioned the issue of quality of the roads. So in one part, he sort of admitted roads were being built, but then he talked about the quality of the roads and the drainages being built. So what do you say to that?
If we have been able to control the amount of flood in the capital territory, and we are doing same in our commercial nerve center in Warri, and today in Asaba, nobody ever gets threatened anymore whenever it rains. So you begin to wonder what is talking about the issue of quality. The roads that were built, one of the first roads that we built in our first 100 days is a particular road that leads to the University of Delta, the Ole campus. That road up to this moment does not have any pothole. There are still a number of roads that were built, dual carriageways, bridges that are serving our people. So if he wants to play politics, let him go and do a proper research so that he can afford to campaign properly for his principal. One thing that I know the opposition is finding difficult in Delta is the fact that Okowa has so performed that they cannot trail that part, because if they make attempt to go through that way, Deltans will not believe them. Okowa did not apply to be called the roadmaster. Deltans saw the amount of roads he has built in the course of time, and on their own started calling him the roadmaster. A good number of governors have visited Delta to commission roads, to commission bridges. Maybe Maniboro may need to visit. We don't even mind paying for him to move around and understand what development is all about. We are very much mindful of the fact that the history beckons, and that history will judge all of us. And we will not pretend as if we will not leave office one day. So what we are doing is to ensure that even when we leave office, that the history will be kind to us. And that is why Senator Okowa had made it very clear that up to the 28th of May 2023, he will continue to implement projects. Just a couple of days ago, some of your colleagues wondered why the man will still continue to work with the same zest, even in his second term in office. But of course, I do know that my brother Emaniboro does not understand. He was looking forward to a governor who will just follow politics and not settle down to continue to work. We will continue to work. We will continue to deliver on the promises that were made. We are still commissioning and indeed even inaugurating new projects. And let me even digress a little. Just another journalist that also progressed in error is one of my colleagues in AIT, who is no longer there, is now doing an independent program, Felix Akuga. And I thought he was an ace broadcaster, but he ended up progressing in error all the way. Let them do a thorough job and stop embarrassing our profession. Our profession is such that you base your analysis on facts. He was talking about 150 billion bridging finance loan that we are trying to assess on account of the funds that the federal government is owing us, because we are desirous of leaving behind footprints in the sands of time. But he too demonstrated lack of understanding of how projects are even initiated. Of course, I don't begrudge him. He is also a card-carrying member of the APC. He just hide and pretend that he's a journalist when he's not.
All right,
so
Mr.
please,
Aniagwu,
when they meet you, advise them not to embarrass the profession.
Okay, Mr. Aniagwu, we'll not be talking about personalities here. You talked about the performance of the Okowa administration. You are saying he's done enough to the Deltans.
There's nothing like enough There's nothing like enough in governance.
Has it delivered?
You put in your effort.
Great.
And you continue to.
So has it delivered his promises to the Delta people enough to keep the state as a PDP state?
The people of Delta knows that he has done far beyond what he promised in 2015. He came in 2015 with a promise to transform the environment, a promise to unite the people and promote peace and harmony, a promise to bring about a renewal of our urban center, a promise to bring in improvement and reforms in education and health sectors, and of course, try as much as possible to also industrialize agriculture. All this we are doing and more. And so we are convinced that the state will not only remain PDP, but that in the next election, that even members of the APC will be pleading to even have 25%. So that is not an issue at all. But in spite of what he has done, the man is still determined to continue, despite the fact that this is a political season. Governance will not elude us. That we are determined to ensure.
Great, and I'm sure Deltans are happy to hear that. But let's talk about the politics now. The twists and turns ongoing in your state at the moment. The governor seems to be having issues with his one-time political godfather, former Governor James Ibori, over the choice of candidate to succeed him. How's that going? How do they intend to resolve that?
Well, first of all, the governor is not having any issue with former Governor James Ibori, a man that we respect because he has also played his role both in the life of our people and, of course, in our state. This is political period, and you expect that individuals will have their different views, but at the end of the day, at the nick of time, they will be able to also come together and work out what is best for the state. There is no trouble that is existing. You don't expect that everybody must just move on one lane. At a time will come, they will resolve whatever issues that you think exist. But as to troubles or quarrel, there is no quarrel. They are playing politics because this is a political season. But I told you, even when we are playing that, we are not losing sight of our responsibility to govern and govern effectively. Okay,
you say that there may be no issues, but there are reports of an anointed candidate of the governor, which is not new. I mean, we've seen that happen over and over again in Nigerian politics, that the governor would prefer someone to succeed him. However, the power bloc, the Bori power bloc as it is known in Delta State, also prefers another candidate. The anointed candidate, so to say, of Governor Okowa seems to be having some controversies around him. Reports, and I'm sure you've heard about this, reports about his qualification and his identity. Will the governor take the risk of backing his anointed candidate, which we hear is the Speaker of the State House of Assembly?
I don't actually know who provided this anointing oil with which a candidate has been anointed.
You're saying there's no anointed candidate?
I am close enough to the governor.
Are you saying there's no preferred candidate?
I'm close enough to the governor. The governor have not given me that information that he poured libation on any of the candidates that are contesting. But I don't also want to pretend that I have not heard about what you said. There is a particular candidate that is towering far above a number of other candidates on account of his grassroots touch. And of course, you do know that once somebody is doing well, the insinuation is that there's somebody behind that person. If it's the speaker you are talking about, the speaker has been able to pay his dues as a speaker of the House of Assembly, and he has been able to lead that assembly. If that is what is going for him, the governor will be very happy to associate with that performance. But at the moment, the governor being the father of the party, wishes everybody well. I've asked all of them to continue to interface with the delegates, and the delegates are in a better position to make their choice. And I do know that this speaker have also been very busy, just like other candidates, crisscrossing the length and breadth of the 25 local government area. If at the end of the day some individuals are afraid of his pedigree, they should leave the governor out of it. It means that the speaker has been able to work hard enough to enjoy the support of majority of the delegates of the People's Democratic Party. And in any case, you also mentioned that there is a candidate that also belongs to leaders group, that is James Ibori. Will you also say that he also poured anointing on him? I wouldn't know who usually provides this anointing oil. But perhaps it serves the interest of those who are being anointed in the minds of those who are alleging. But very quickly, let me also state that it is very clear that when the time comes, the governor will vote for a candidate. Our leader, James Ibori, will vote for a candidate. And ditto the delegates. What that means is that the delegates and these leaders are allowed to have choices because they will not vote for more than one candidate at a time. So if it happened at the end of the day that Oborowori becomes the choice that Okowa will vote for, and that because of that people say it's anointing, I will want them to wait till on the voting day because that have not even arrived. So please, let's leave the issue of anointing and let the people continue to approach the delegates and then also ask their God to bless them. Maybe at the end of the day, who says that they are not also capable of winning?
Well, the days are fast approaching with the primaries set to take place sometime around next week, if I'm not wrong, or 2 weeks from now. A lot of people are worried that the polity is being heated by these twists and turns and these controversies and the number of aspirants in the PDP, and that may cost the party, the state. So is the governor not worried about that, for instance? And you talk about anointing oil being poured. I'm sure you're used to the term and terminology. Some would say the governor himself benefited from this anointing when it was his turn in 2015.
If the governor was anointed in 2015, he would not have gone through all the stress he went through to be able to emerge the candidate of the party. Those who are very much versed with on the politics of Delta will tell you that the governor had to transfer the 270 wards and of course the 25 local government areas, talking to the electorates, the delegates, and there were a number of persons that contested that election, even from his own senatorial district. But on account of his grassroots touch, he was able to emerge victorious in 2014. And I can see from even sitting from afar that is also what Oborowori is doing. I do hope that others will also just go reach out, talk to the delegates, convince them. Maybe you are able to do a better job than Oborowori, who says that you will not even be able to also pick the ticket. But I can tell you that there is nothing like overheating of the polity. The challenge of those in the opposition, in the case of APC, is that Okowa's performance is intimidating enough for them not to know where to start. Then for those in the PDP, perhaps the fact that Oborowori have been able to move from one assembly to the other, the first speaker to move to be in the assembly for this length of time, that's also possibly an intimidating credential. Those who are talking about different other things, I wouldn't know what they are talking about. Let them go and approach the delegates. Governor Okowa is busy with governance. In the next couple of days, they will be filing out and the delegates will make their decision. I am not too sure Governor Okowa will have 2 votes in any of the primaries that will take place.
He may have just 1 vote, but you cannot ignore the power of an incumbent governor in Nigerian politics. And
Okowa's power is his performance.
Yes, and as we round up, what would be the legacy of Governor Okowa in Delta State? Very briefly, what would you say, has been so outstanding for him?
I want you to add S to that legacy. It's not just legacy. Okay. It's legacies.
Legacies.
He has the legacy of being the only governor in this country to be leaving behind 3 brand new universities that are functional. He has the legacy of building the best secretariat. That's where I'm operating speaking to you from right now. At the moment, he has the legacy of taking away a number of youths that were hitherto unemployed and then making them entrepreneurs. He has the legacy of building the only film and leisure park in Nigeria, not just in the South. He has the legacy of building a number of bridges. And of course, a legacy of ensuring that Delta become one of the most peaceful states in Nigeria, which is why we move from number 4 in oil production to number 1. All those are just but a few of the many legacies. But you know what? He also has a legacy of changing rustic communities in the creeks to urban centers, such that now you can drive in our creeks, and these things are verifiable. You can see them. We don't talk about Photoshop. So we beat our chest to say that by the grace of God, we are doing quite well. and we are determined to remain on that track even up to the 28th of May 2023.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your perspective and your thoughts on the show today. Delta State Commissioner for Information, Charles Aniagwu. Thank you, all the way from Delta State.